Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the far end of the bench podcast. My name is Nico Bryant. I have the center attention this week, and obviously, lots of March Madness has been going on. March calmness, as we called it last week, with all the one seeds making the Final Four, and a little bit of unprecedented situation. My center attention this week. I'm not going to talk about March Madness. I'm going to talk about the Frozen Four because the DU Pioneers are back into the Frozen Four again. The defending champs last year knocked off the number one team, Boston College, on Saturday in a great game. 3-0 dominating performance from the Pios. And look, if you love hockey like we do at the show, if you love watching the NHL, you love watching Alex Ovechkin and his chase for history that's coming up probably in the next couple of games as he's 3 goals away, and you like seeing all these fun, you love watching the Four Nations, love watching that, tune into the Frozen Four because the Frozen Four is the best college teams in the country, obviously facing off, and DU Pioneers, 10-time national champions, won their 10th last year, most in Division One, are back in the Frozen Four. Off the backs of David Carr, who obviously was the World Juniors coach for Team USA, who is one of the best coaches in college hockey, plain simple. And on the backs of Matt Davis, who is the best goaltender in college hockey, who's only letting one goal this entire NCAA playoffs so far for the men's hockey, and he has done a fantastic job as well. Like, this team is firing on all cylinders. They've done a great job of playing good team hockey, pucks in deep, dominated a team like that, like Boston College in their last game, up 3-0 to start, and obviously Boston College got the one at the end. It was a dominating performance in what the Pioneers are doing, and especially when they come to this Final Four with Penn State, who's a very good team also, with Western Michigan, with Boston University Terriers. It's going to be a high-flying game. The games are on Saturday, and if you're getting a little bored with all these one seeds winning in basketball, tune into the Frozen Four because the Frozen Four has been a lot of fun as well. I've been enjoying the hell out of it. So without further ado, we have a lot of March Madness talk, a lot of wrestling to talk too, a little bit of Nuggets and Avs as well. So don't you worry. Far on the bench, episode 225 coming at you right now.
If you don't stay down and you never quit, come on over here and sit on the far end of the bench.
Boy, I'll tell you, there ain't no better time to have a trip scheduled than the week after spring break as a teacher. My, and especially going to a place where I guess as a geography teacher, I failed myself. I didn't realize where I was going in relation to the water. We were staying on Virginia Beach, like the boardwalk across the street. And I was like, oh shit, that's the ocean. This is gonna be nice. When I'm not at the tournament, this is gonna be nice. I get to relax. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys for tuning in. Episode 225 of the Far End of the Bench podcast. Jimmy Pilato, Nico Bryant at FEOTB Pod. Like, follow, subscribe, leave a 5-star rating and a review. Going to continue to remind you guys of that and continue to pile in on the comments. We'll make sure that we go back and forth. People have been reaching out saying that they like our takes on certain things. We talk about everything, and evidenced by Nico's center of attention, the Frozen Four. It is the time. I mean, it's the only 2 hockey games that I watch. I guess 3 hockey games, the 2 semifinals and the final. Not necessarily because I don't care. I don't really know any of the players. If it's on and there's if it's a Tuesday and there's no Maction and there's no NHL game and I'm all cut up on Invincible and I've watched the new episode of The Boys and I've done the dishes and I planned my lessons, are you starting to get my drift? If it's the only thing on, then I'm watching regular season college hockey. But the Frozen Four is similar to the Stanley Cup playoffs where the intensity is much higher and the game is different. So it's fun to see that way. But you still see, just like we were talking about last week with Wyatt Hendrickson, you're going to see college kids take that little bit of an extra step to accomplish something for their team that they might not ever do again outside of DU because we're the best and we're a dynasty and we're the defending champs.
I believe it was that Penn State game. The Penn State game went to 2 overtimes the other night that I was watching too. Like these games are intense. They're great.
Overtime college hockey is another animal, thrilling animal.
And like I said, look, most of these college kids, it's a weird thing because obviously most of the NHL talent comes from fundamental systems in different countries and KHL or the OHL in Canada or from different spots. And there's only a handful, frankly, of guys on the ice that are going to be playing at the next level consistently Obviously, there's a lot of college hockey players. They're in the NHL currently, but they're not consistently the best players in the world, unfortunately. But it's a bunch of gritty, hard-nosed players. And like I said, DU is a 10-time national champion and reigning champs, obviously. And to knock off BC, who's obviously a college hockey powerhouse in its own right, to knock them off as the number 1 seed and to get back to the Frozen Four is a pretty big deal. So shout out to David Carl and the rest of the boys of the Pios.
I think it's going to be awesome seeing how that moves forward. Let's go to the other tournament that everybody had their attention on. That is one thing. I texted you about it. I know that you know it better than I do because you travel to the East Coast more often. Games starting at 8:30 and the second game not starting until 10:15. The fact that no wonder they don't watch Christian McCaffrey and Ashton Genty over there, because I wouldn't be staying up until midnight, 2 a.m. to watch some weird college game, but I was there. I was watching the Sweet 16. We'll go back to that round and kind of give credence to some of the games that happened there. Auburn moves on, Michigan State, Florida, Texas Tech. The big story, I guess, for this one, I've even heard about. Maryland had that strange situation with their head coach. He was taking interviews while they were on their run through the tournament. They lose in the Sweet 16, and now all of a sudden he's Villanova's head coach. So I guess I wanted your take on that. What did you think about that situation?
It wasn't look, obviously coaches leave all the time. I don't think that was the problem with the situation. The real problem with the situation was the fact that he trashed the school on the way out, and Maryland was not happy. It was like, look, you can talk shit all you want about the university and talk and about the way things are going. You're probably not saying a lot of things wrong. But at the same time, like when you trash the school, who would want to take the job after you? Right? Like I look at what Richard Pitino did at New Mexico, because he left New Mexico and he took the Xavier job. He left graciously. He was like, you know what? They took this guy from the Big East and a guy who was born on the East Coast and brought him out to Mexico and made him home and made him feel like home. And he was so thankful of his time there and how great of a tenure. New Mexico obviously won a tournament game this year, nearly won 2 of them. So he really helped build that program up. But as a guy who was from the East Coast, obviously his heart was still to go back to the Big East, coach in the Big East, where his dad coaches. Obviously, now he gets a chance to coach against his dad more often, which is very, very cool. But like the way they just came out and the way, and I'm gonna pull up his name because I can't remember his name off the top of my head. But the way he was out already on the outs, it was just so painful to the fan base.
Kevin Willard,
the team that was out, that was, like I said, all the distractions that were going on. They were a damn good team. Obviously, Julian Reese was very, very good. Angel Reese's brother. They had great depth, great shooting wise. Frankly, they were in that game too in the Sweet 16 where they faced Florida, and Florida basically had a great comeback and was able to wear that down in the long run. But like I said, I understand moving to schools that you're more familiar with and doing that. That's why we can't blame guys for jumping the portal, because coaches do the exact same thing. But at the same way, it's like, how do you expect to get another job somewhere, and how do you expect to continue building a long tenure as a coach if you are just going to trash everyone on the way out and basically burn every bridge possible? And frankly, you didn't have the job, but technically you did have the job. It was a very, Kevin Willard basically just made a mockery of himself. And Villanova obviously hasn't been very good since Jay Wright retired. But like, if you are a recruit going to Villanova, you see the way he talks about the staff and talks about the people that put their hard-earned money and time into that program, it's a downside. And you're like, God, do I really want to play for him? And the answer is probably no.
Yeah, it doesn't look good when you have that big of it's a big stage, because you're in the national tournament. You do have a chance to move forward. Why would you add extra stress to your plate unless you just wanted to get this thing over with because you knew that it was a handshake deal by the time the season ended? But it better work out, because if it doesn't work out at Villanova, like you said,
Villanova is not a school where they will give you a big leash. You have a short leash there. If you can't get this team back to the tournament, which hasn't been there in 2 years now, if you can't just get this team back in the tournament, they're saying the NIT next year or the year after that, 2 more years, you're gone. Just straight up. That's how short of a leash you have there. Jay Wright, I believe, retired in 21. So It's been 3 years of the old regime, and now he's already gone because they haven't made the tournament the last 2 years. You continue that trend, you'll be on the unemployment line very quickly.
Moving forward in the Sweet 16, Duke and Alabama both dropped 100. Duke beat Arizona 193. Alabama shot the lights out against BYU, beat them 113 to 88. Of those two performances, I mean, was that a once in a lifetime thing from Bama, or is that something that they could have repeated? I know that it didn't repeat in the Elite Eight, but is that something that you expected from that team?
Congrats on your one shining moment. I mean, like shooting that high of a percentage is absolutely insane, especially at the college level. 113. For those that don't watch consistently college basketball, a mid-level, mid-major college basketball game finishes at a like 68 to 63 score. It is not either near the hundreds, frankly. You are very far away because of the type of defense, the type of shooting. Bama basically said, "Oh, green light, we're just going to rip," and basically BYU just couldn't get out of the gate. They tried to fight and claw their way back, but Bama just kept hitting shot after shot after shot. And obviously, watching that game, I was like, "This isn't sustainable." I thought in the back of my head, I was like, "That's fine if you're doing this right now, but like, if you would have done this against Duke, we would have had a different conversation." Right, if this was BYU, and no offense to BYU, they did well. They got this far in the tournament, but they were obviously much different matchup for this team as opposed to Duke, who has a big man inside. Obviously, Cooper Flag has been hot. Knappel has been very good for them. Duke is more sustainable to continue putting up that high-powered offense because of the weapons they have, as opposed to Bama, who obviously on the back of Sears and Grant Nelson were very good all tournament long, but frankly just didn't have the lace continue shooting the lights out like that.
Mm-hmm. Let's move into the Elite Eight matchups because that can be. We'll talk about the games that they just had, and then we'll talk about the matchups that they have in the Final Four coming up. But Auburn beats Michigan State 70 to 64 in the South, and in the West, Florida beats Texas Tech 84 to 79. In those two games, who looked better moving forward? I know that Florida needed a little bit more of a comeback, and they needed to stave off for Texas Tech. Michigan State. How did they look going up against the number one seed in the Auburn Tigers? What did you see in those two matchups?
I wasn't able to catch much of the Auburn game. I was able to obviously watch the Florida Texas game. Well, what I saw from the highlights from that Auburn game, Michigan really were trying to get close throughout the game, but Auburn just kept extending the lead. Janai Broom and the rest of the Auburn Tigers, they really came. Sorry, it wasn't Johnny Broom, it was Janai. I misspoke that wrong the last couple of weeks. He's been damn good for them. Obviously, he went down in the Elite Eight matchup against Michigan, and then obviously, Sweet 16 matchup against Michigan. They came back in the round of Elite Eight against Michigan State and really put on a great performance. Florida, like I said, Florida is the most tested team. If I'm going to be honest with you, out of the Final Four teams, like. Having that great of a comeback with Mark Clayton Jr., who obviously is probably the best guard in the country right now, if not the best guard in the country all season long, what they had to do with the comeback race against Texas Tech. Texas Tech was up by 9 with 2:30 left. And for those that don't know logistics, there's 30 seconds on a shot clock, which means if there's 2 minutes left in the game, that's 4 possessions. Basically, things have to go completely wrong for you to really fuck that up, or you to go over in each possession is what Florida's defense did and Texas Tech did at the end of the game. It was poor late game execution, and on the backs of Clayton and the rest of the Florida Gators, they came in ready. And frankly, that's a team that, with that type of performance, that team's tested. Right, Duke wasn't really tested. Auburn was tested decently against Michigan. They had a little bit first. Michigan State, not much. Houston kind of steamrolled through Purdue, steamrolled through Gonzaga and company. Duke, obviously, Bama was probably their next biggest test, but at the end of the game, they pretty closed the distance and made it pretty easy of a win. Florida's the most tested team right now, and obviously Clayton is Clayton right now is probably the odds-on favorite to win Player of the Tournament because how well he's played thus far through these first 4 games. And like I said, Florida being tested helps them so much as opposed to Auburn, who's been very badly injured and basically limping in to the Final Four, which I think plays in their matchup a lot.
On the other side, Eastern Division, Duke beats Alabama 85 to 65. Cooper Flag and company looking strong as they move on, and Houston beats Tennessee 69 to 50. Excuse me. So in those 2 games, outside of Cooper Flag, is there enough for Duke if Cooper Flag was to be able to be shut down? If for some reason, don't want to wish anything bad, but if something bad were to happen, do they have the depth to be able to push past losing a guy or not having the production that he's been bringing to this tournament? Or does it not even matter because he's that good?
Well, I mean, I look at what happened in the second half against, I believe it was Arizona. Cooper Flag didn't have a bucket until about the 8-minute mark in that second half, or a bucket in the second half up until the 8-minute mark, and they kind of steamrolled through Arizona. Look, they have great guard play with Kneppel and company. They really rely on the big man underneath as well. Like Cooper Flag is the offense, but when you have guys in the middle like Ngamba and Malouch and what they've built depth wise at the forward position around Cooper Flag, it's very, very easy to see how John Shire really built his team. Because I remember about those this is a weird. I think a very, very weird comparison, but I think it's very, very similar. As I remember those Kyle Singer days back in the late 2000s, early 2010s, where it was built around a big in the middle that was a stretch 4, stretch 3, Cooper Flag slash them, and then around him you had Nolan Smith, you had Tyus Jones, you had these bigs, you had the Plumlee twins underneath where they could dominate the post. Kossinger really was a great on-ball, one-on-one offensive guy, and then they had a big inside that really could dominate the boards and guards that can get up and down with the best of them. That's frankly what John Shire built here, and frankly he was a part of those rosters too for a reason, because he saw the presence and saw what it could look like. Except now you have the best player in the country. No doubt about it. And Cooper Flag that is running it at the head. And frankly, like I said, Duke is just like I said before the tournament. If you give me Duke or Auburn versus the field to win the national championship, I'm taking Duke or Auburn to win as opposed to the rest of the field. And that's because of how strong they were at the end of the season and how strong this Duke team is and how coached they are. And it's like, look, John Shire is trying to build his own repertoire and build his own legacy, because like I said, he had a legacy as a player for a lot of years. For those that don't know the story, John Shire was one of the best college shooters. He's basically the JJ Redick's predecessor after JJ Redick went to the NBA, and he was a sharp shooting guard, and he had this horrible accident where he basically became blind in his right eye, or might have been left eye, I don't remember. He was blind in his eye, where it basically ended his basketball career. Well, he got LASIK, got everything figured out, and he started coaching under Coach K, I believe in the late 2010s. And now this is his program, and having on the backs of Kneppel, having the backs of Cooper Flag, Duke is like odds-on favorite by far and away. And I think back to that Zion and RJ Barrett team back in the late 2010s, and I'm like, damn, that team had all the star talent, all the NBA talent, but frankly, they weren't built as strong as this team. Basically, this Duke team is just built from the ground up and basically playing a team style basketball where it's these one and dones. Yeah, there's a one and done on the team at Cooper Flag, but these one and dones aren't that big of a deal because of the depth this team has. So it's like I said, Duke is the reason why they're the odds-on favorite to win in the Final Four, and frankly, they have a much easier path looking at it. But it should be interesting to see how things turn out, because Houston is a very well coached team, obviously with Sampson over there, and it may be a very, very tough matchup.
And Houston deserves a lot of credit too, because they moved into the Big 12. And people were wondering, were they going to be able to hold up, because they were doing well in the AAC, and they've walked into that conference and dominated it since they've been there. Now they're in the Final Four as a 1 seed. So what have they done as a program to push themselves to not have this lull when they're moving into the brighter lights, the bigger stage? They've been able to make that transition and now run with it, and now they have a chance. They're 2 games away from national championship.
I believe this is the second Final Four in 3 years. Might have been back-to-back Final Fours. And look, Houston is historically great. Like, you look at the likes that have come through there. Olajuwon comes to mind. Malone comes to mind. Quentin Grimes the last couple of years more recently comes to mind. The one thing that this Houston team has is their defense is such a high-tempo base. Like, I saw a highlight today of the defensive drill where they had 2 guys line up and basically dive after a ball against one another to try to pick up the ball, loose ball. That is the mentality that Sampson has over there, and their defense is second to none. The one thing that worries about me is their shooting wise and how much depth they have at that position. But they're doing great things, and like I said, Sampson has done a hell of a job with continuing building this program consistently good every single year, and now being a Big 12 representative and owning the Big 12, basically one of the best basketball conferences in the country. It shows why Houston is here is playing this weekend.
Before we get into picks, this is the first Final Four with all 1 seeds since 2008. What about this tournament? What about college basketball right now is leaning towards this 1 seed takeover? We didn't get any madness. We didn't get any Cinderella runs. All the teams that we thought could make deeper runs end up going out in the Sweet 16, Elite 8. What is this? It's obviously historic, but what about the circumstances brought us to this point?
I mean, look. This may have been the most not chalky, but very, very top heavy year of college basketball we've had since obviously you said 2008. Like you saw the top teams and why they're good for reason. I mean, look at the Elite Eight we had. We had all 1 seeds. We had 3 2 seeds and 1 3 seed. Like that's as chalked as you get. Obviously, the Cinderellas are fun. Obviously, the Cinderella teams and the great stories is a lot of fun. The One Shining Moment video won't be as glorious as previous years. But frankly, you have the 4 best teams. Like I don't think there's zero doubt in my mind that Auburn, Florida, Duke, and Houston are the 4 best teams. They're the 4 best teams coming in this tournament. And frankly, we are going to have an electric Final Four, in my opinion, because we have that. Obviously, it sucks. Obviously, we would love to see a Butler or Wichita State a long run or to the final. But frankly, you have the 4 best teams where, like I said, I can make an argument for all 4 teams to win. Frankly, there's a lot of years where you come into the Final Four and be like, this team, if they win one more game, cool. I don't think they have the legs to win the second game. But I look at all 4 of these teams, and I'm like, they have legs to do both very, very confidently, and all 4 believe that. And obviously, if you're a team in the Final Four, you believe you can win. But frankly, there's a difference between believing you can win and actually winning. All 4 of these teams can actually win. That's the fun part about it. And like I said, it sucks that it's all 1 season. It sucks that the way it is. And we can have this discussions as we talk more about NIL and for more shows to come. But like when you have the top teams the way they are, don't you want to see the best play the best? Right? We talk about in college football. You want to see the best teams. You want to see Ohio State and Notre Dame go against each other because of the 2 hottest teams. You want to see Bama versus Clemson or Bama versus Georgia, right? You want to see these top teams going against another. It feels like a little bit you're missing too much if a top seed plays a lower seed because it's a fun Cinderella story. But let's be honest with ourselves. No seed has won a national championship lower than an 8 seed. It's a real stat. It's a real stat, okay? There have been Cinderella stories where teams gone long distance, but no team lower than an 8 seed has ever won the national championship. And frankly, like having these 4 teams, Duke, Auburn, Florida, and Houston, it's a glory to be had, right? It is a fun time to have because these semifinals and national championship is going to be a very exciting game as opposed to UConn the last 2 years, which basically just ran over teams. And now, frankly, I don't think we're going to have one game that's more than 10-point margin of difference.
If you had to pick between the 2, which do you think will be more competitive, Duke and Houston or Auburn and Florida?
I would go Florida, Auburn. 2 teams are obviously very know each other very well in the SEC. That's why 2 schools that basically hate each other. I would assume that. I think Duke obviously has a little bit more legs for a little bit more of a blowout chance. But like I said, Florida just coming off their close win in or right at the end of the game against Texas Tech, they're hot off the press. And Auburn obviously a team that Bruce Pearl will have ready going. I think that game is going to be a lot more tension going on, a lot more high stakes going on, and frankly, I think that would be the better game between the 2. But I expect both games to be very, very good.
I mean, at this point, you're playing all teams that have 5-game winning streaks and looking to make it 7 so that they can hoist the national championship. Your picks for the games. Let's start with Florida and Auburn. Who do you have winning that one?
I mean, I had a Duke Florida national championship before the tournament started, and I'm going to stick with it. I think what I saw from Clayton, like I said, this Gators team, they're one of the most defensively sound teams. They can shoot the lights out from 3. They can get put stops together. Auburn, I feel like, has kind of limped their way in. They've not played their best basketball, which could be a scary thing because that means they haven't played their best basketball yet. That could change things real quickly for them. I just think Florida is that good. And on the opposite side, Duke's the #1 team in the country, in my opinion, for a reason. They have the best player in the country, in my opinion, in Cooper Flagg. I think John Shire, it's his time to get one, and with this new group. So I really do think that they overcome Houston's defensive powerhouse and can get to the final. So I have Duke and Houston, or Duke and Florida, excuse me.
I had Duke as one of my initial picks, so I still had the chance to gain some points. I've totally lost out after the second round. My bracket went to absolute hell. I had St. John's in the other spot over Michigan State, so none of those teams that I picked are in that position. I think that Florida out of that St. John's spot. I like what I've seen when I watched their games. I did stay up to watch a little bit of their first half. in the Sweet 16 round. I think that they have the ability to overcome this round, and then we'll see what happens in the final. Maybe Duke has a little bit of a scare, and Houston's able to expose something, maybe a way to go about them. But as of now, my national championship pick would be switched to Duke over. I had St. John's initially, so I'd be going with Duke as my national champion at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I have Duke as well. Duke is the team that I picked at the very beginning, and I wouldn't be surprised if, like I said, I can't stress enough how good that team is, how well they played against Bama, especially a top team like Bama, who's in the Final Four last year. So I have Duke over Florida.
And the national championship taking place April 7th in San Antonio, so we'll be able to recap, and we'll have a national champion. We'll also be able to start looking at, it'll be the week before the draft. Things will be starting to heat up that way. So there's our March Madness takes for this far into the tournament. Quickly, let's look at the NBA and NHL as we speak.
We're recording this on Wednesday. Do not stare at the score of the Denver Nuggets game right now. And for those that watched the Nuggets game last night, first of all, if you're a Nuggets fan, I hope I about jumped off the side of my balcony, and I'm not condoning that by any means. I'm going to be very, very careful with saying that because like I said, I like to live and I love my life. But that game ending last night against Minnesota in double overtime, I wasn't there because I practiced and I had a lot of other things going on, so I wasn't able to make it. But I was watching from home because it was nationally televised, and Jokic put up a 60-point triple-double. The only third time in NBA history that's happened, by the way. 6-0, most points in an NBA game this season, by the way, by Nikola Jokic, your non-MVP winner, right? He puts up a 60-point triple-double. This team, basically at the end of the game, at the end of double overtime, we have free throws, we're missing them. And at the end of the game, take a guess who, if you were to guess one guy to miss a wide open layup and not to run the clock out, and then also be the guy to miss the free throw to go up by more than 1 point, who do you think it would have been?
Jamal Murray.
Nope, Jamal Murray's not. Jamal was injured. MPJ had family things, so they both weren't playing. Take another guess.
Russell Westbrook.
Bingo. Absolutely bingo. Live by Russ, die by Russ, apparently. So, for those that don't remember the bubble and don't remember the heart attack that Torrey Craig gave us as Nuggets fans in round 1 against Utah in game 7. But Torrey Craig in round 1, game 7 against Utah during the bubble COVID playoffs, basically it was game 7. We were up by 1. And Torrey Craig had a wide open layup. Basically, instead of running the clock out, which it was under the shot clock, he went up for layup. And he missed. So Utah obviously got the rebound. Gobert gets the ball up the court. They pick it up. They move the ball up forward, and they get the ball to Mike Conley at the time, who was in Utah. Mike Conley pulls a 3 at the buzzer. Banks out. For those, this is 5 years ago. Now, banks out, and the Nuggets move on to the second round, and Utah's season's done. Well, fast forward to April 1st, April Fool's Day, where Russell Westbrook decides to make a fool of himself and on the day that's meant for fooling around. And not only does he miss the layup to obviously force the ball back in their hands instead of running the clock out, he then fouls the wide open 3-point shooter that missed the shot, Nickeil Alexander. I believe it was Nickeil Alexander Walker. It might have been Jamie Daniels. I think it was Alexander Walker. Fouls the 3-point shooter on the line as the clock hits 0-0, and Minnesota is able to hit 2 out of 3 free throws to win the game. I was blown out of my mind. I was like, this is the dumbest way to lose. And by the way, that is now 5 straight losses that the Denver Nuggets have lost to the Minnesota Timberwolves. 5 straight losses. A team that has their number. Like I said, I've said it all the last couple of years. Minnesota is built to beat this team. Plain and simple. They know if they can beat the Denver Nuggets, they have a good chance to make the NBA Finals. Almost did it last year, right? Tim Connolly built this roster to beat the team that he built before. It's not even like sugarcoating it. And this the Nuggets bias coming in. No, he literally said it when he traded for Gobert. I am bringing in Gobert to stop Jokic. I am drafting Anthony Edwards because I need a killer on the 3-point line. Anthony Edwards is that. He did this roster this way for a reason. And was it a topic to trade Cat? Yeah, it was. Randall had a great game, I thought. Conley obviously is a veteran of the game and very, very good. But watching that game last night and the game tonight, Jimmy, you've only watched probably maybe one Nuggets game all season. Give me who you think started tonight. Give me who you think the starting 5 was tonight. I'll tell you right now, Jokic, Jamal, and Michael Porter Jr. all aren't playing. So take a guess who the starting lineup is.
Christian Brown.
Nope, no Christian Brown. He's injured.
Aaron Gordon.
Nope, also injured. Guess again.
I'm out. You're out of names. That's all the names I know.
Zeke Naji is your starting power forward.
I knew
DeAndre
him.
Jordan is your starting center. Russell Westbrook is your starting point guard. Jalen Pickett is your starting shooting guard. And Hunter Tyson is your starting small forward. Unless you are a basketball nerd like myself, you have no idea who the heck these guys are. Playing simple outside of DeAndre Jordan and Russell Westbrook because of their history. You have no idea who these guys are. That
sounds like the guys that are trying to be carried to a championship by the guys that are all out.
We are currently sitting as the third seed in the West with only a half game difference between us and Lakers. I don't know if this team realized who's the number one seed in this bracket, but the Oklahoma City Thunder are the number one seed in the West. And if you somehow get past the first round, because this team doesn't even look like they're good enough to get past the first round. If you somehow get past the first round, you will stare OKC down in the face, and OKC will bury you into the ground and sweep the hell out of you. So it is even more precedent to get a 3 seed or a 2 seed. Instead, this team is taking games off and basically shooting themselves in the foot in games that fucking should matter but don't matter. Look, I am... Calvin Booth should not have a job with this Denver Nuggets team following the exit from the playoffs because this team will not win a championship unless something miraculous happens. And frankly, if it's going to be on Jokic's back. But this team needs a badly reset and a badly new talent around him because it's not good enough. It is not good enough anymore just to start playing rookies who frankly won't be on NBA rosters once they leave this team. Okay? It is going to be a wake-up call. We will be the 4 seed after tonight unless a miraculous comeback with the bad news Bears beats the San Antonio Spurs. I am just absolutely sick to my stomach because we are wasting one of Jokic's prime years, frankly, one of his best years of his career. And it's absolutely sickening because you look at this Western Conference, this team can be better than Houston. This team can be better than the Lakers. Can be better than Golden State, can be better than Memphis. Frankly, on paper, the only team that's better than this team, in my opinion, is Oklahoma City Thunder. But when you actually put these guys in the rotation and play a consistent basis and ask every single person on the team to do their job, it will not show up every night. And that's why you lose to these bad teams like Washington Wizards twice a year for no fucking reason. It's why you're getting your ass kicked at the end of a game against the Minnesota Timberwolves and have to force a double overtime game at home, which you should win. It's why you haven't beat that's why you're going to be probably the 4 seed. And the Lakers are going to be able to jump you for the 3 seed in the West because you're not taking care of business. It's very, very poor. It's very, very frustrating. And this team, like I said, we're wasting Jokic's prime right now. And frankly, if this team doesn't make a big move in the offseason to figure out what else is going on for this team, I fear that we will only ever win one championship the rest of my entire life. Because frankly, this is the best player that will ever step to a Nuggets uniform. I've already realized that. I'm never going to overcome it. Nikola Jokic will be the best player to ever wear a different Nuggets uniform, ever, in my lifetime. Maybe my kid's lifetime will be different, but my lifetime, he's the only person that will ever be that. And we only get one championship with him, it's going to be hurt like a bitch. It is going to hurt like a bitch.
It's just, thinking about both the Avalanche and the Nuggets, when they won their championships, there was a different killer mentality from the roster. And the Nuggets, when they won their title, and the Avalanche too, because the Avalanche haven't made it any further than the Nuggets since they won their championship, they just relaxed. And when you relax in professional sports, that's when other teams catch up to you. That's when other teams pass you by. So the Nuggets right now, I feel like they're hanging in there by a thread. And it's similar to, this is the Nuggets that I remember. This is Nuggets that we grew up with, unfortunately, where there's a lot of promise and they're like a 3-4 seed and maybe they'll make it to the second round and hopefully they get a chance to win a few games. But I guess I think that's the height of the expectation. And it seems like it's from the top down. It seems like it's from the way that they are managed by their general manager all the way through the locker room right now. And I don't know.
It is every single person in the roster watching Nikola Jokic highlights and watching him hit these 3/4 court shots being like, oh, he's going to save us. This man will save us. I suck. I don't need to do anything. Don't need to do my job. He'll save us. And then that's what's biting this team in the ass every single night.
On the Avalanche side, hockey looks decent. They're right now scoreless with the Blackhawks when we're recording this on Wednesday night. They look to be locked into the 3 seed in the West, so they'll be taking on the Stars in the first round, which at this point, I'm ready to get the tough things out of the way early. And I'm saying the same thing that I did back in 22. You're going to have to beat all of the teams that you have demons against. So beat the Stars in the first round. Then you'll have the winner of Winnipeg and St. Louis. So you might have to go through St. Louis again, and St. Louis in the playoffs is never easy. And from there, we'll see what happens. I do think that they have the ability to, and see if there's a wild upset on the other side. Vegas right now holding on the top spot in the Pacific. They'll be the 3 seed technically overall. Dallas and Winnipeg both have over 100 points. Vegas has 98 right now, and I think there's 6 games left. I think there's 6 games left.
Look, it's basically locked into the Avalanche are playing the Stars. It's a foregone conclusion right now. The Avs are just trying to get a lot of guys' confidence and frankly, get them prepared physically and mentally for this game because it's going to be an emotional series. It's going to be a very, very emotional series. Obviously, with Ranson being on the other side, obviously all the tough series that we've had with Dallas since basically this team was formed, and possibly even with 92 coming back in the lineup too. It's going to be a very emotional series. That's where we're all leaning to right now. And frankly, like I said, these games don't matter. Obviously, they do matter. But with how hot Dallas has been with Ranson addition, with the additions they made, and how hot we have been, we've not been able to make any difference up. We've only lost 1 regulation game in the last 3 weeks. That's or 2, excuse me, including last night. We only lost 2 regulation games the last 3 weeks, and we haven't made up any ground, which is like, what the fuck? I mean, it's brutal, but that just shows you how good this division is, how good Winnipeg has been all season as the number 1, and how good Dallas has been those last couple of weeks as well. Even with Mikko not having the best statistical performances, the Stars are winning as far as I'm aware. So it doesn't matter if his statistical performance is good, the Stars are winning. So it's going to be a tough series, and frankly, like I said, don't show. Bednar knows better than to not show all of his cards right off the rip and try to get the guys' confidence going into the stretch run. And like I said, you don't want to play your best hockey right now. You want to play your best hockey game 1 of the playoffs. So to get these guys in the rotation ready to go and playing up to Avs style hockey.
The Avs are 6-2-2 in their last 10, and the Stars are 7-1-2. So it's as even as it can be over the last few games, but you can't make up any points that way when the things are moving in that direction. Other thing out of the NHL, Alex Ovechkin is 3 goals away from breaking the all-time goal record set by Wayne Gretzky. He's at 892 career goals right now, so he has the ability to get it done this season. I guess I know that you're somebody who's aware of the magnitude of this goal goal record. I guess let's put it into perspective. How can we make the common person understand what this is in terms of sports history? Because this will be a moment that not a lot of people that see it never thought they would. This moment was thought to never have been able to be even grazed at, let alone possibly finished at the very end of a regular season before we get a wild playoff run in Stanley Cup playoffs. Let's put that into perspective.
Well, I mean, put it in perspective, you have to compare things, right? This is like Barry Bonds or / Karen, whoever you want to argue with, the home run record getting beat. It's like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar having 40 or 39 or 38,000 points and LeBron passing him. It's records that, frankly, that we were like, you know what, this will never get touched because of how great the talent is nowadays and how tough it is. You look at the all-time greats and scoring leaders of all time. Obviously, Crosby comes to mind. You look at the Lemieux. You look at all those worlds. Gretzky was so far and away above all of them. It was absolutely ridiculous in terms of goal scoring. And the fact that Ovechkin is still able to do this on a nightly basis is absolutely insane. Because, like I said, you look at the guys on the list. We love McKinnon on the show. We love Sakic. We love all those guys. Those guys barely got a third of or 2/3 of the goals that Gretzky ended his career with. They were lucky to get 100 or 200 off. That's how many goals Gretzky was putting in the back of the net. Ovechkin to be able to do this frankly, we don't even know what age he is because they probably lied about his age. But like at whatever age he is,
brother, who knows?
Year 20 or whatever is his career, it's absolutely insane. And like I said, he's one of the best hockey players of all time. Once he gets this record, because he will get this record, he'll be the greatest goal scorer of all time. And like I said, I'm happy he got his cup when he did because that was the big thing on Ovechkin as opposed to Crosby. Because in terms of head-to-head matchups of all-time greats. It was always Crosby, Ovechkin, two guys that were in the same division, battled every single night. Crosby got his cups; he got 4 of them. Ovechkin up until that 2018, I believe it was, or was it 2019? I've been 2019.
2019.
2019 season didn't have his, so obviously he finally got his, and goes to show. And you look at Washington and the way they've been playing; they've been red hot too. So it's not a sob story like it was with some of these other all-time records being broken. It is one of the best teams in hockey doing this with their captain and one of the best players of all time, Ovechkin, breaking this record. It's like I said, it will be they're casting every single game for the Washington Capitals on ESPN up until the end of the season for a reason, because frankly he could score 3 goals in the next game and I wouldn't be surprised. Mm-hmm. But it is a record that everyone remember where you were and where it was. I was watching the game before we started recording this on Wednesday night, and it's funny because as an equipment guy, obviously I put a marker on Rob Pennell's 300th goal and all that and done all that kind of stuff where it's important balls like the first WLL inaugural ball I had in my hands. Goal and we marked it down and kept it for the league to have. Like it's just historic things like that are fun things to have. And when they talked about it, it was like, do you know Ovechkin right now is changing every single jersey out in between periods, and he has each stick labeled as a first period stick, second period stick, third period stick, and basically if you change sticks, the equipment manager has to remark the new one to make sure that stick is known. So the stick, the helmet, the puck, everything will be either A, sent to his obviously home where he gets to have it, and apparently he's going to have a Hall of Fame for a Russian Hall of Fame, and have that stuff there, and some of it will be in Toronto in the Hockey Hall of Fame. But it is going to be a historical moment that frankly we may never see broken in our lifetimes. Frankly, we never thought would be maybe broken by Gretzky. If the Gretzky record would be broken, but here we are. It's going to be broken by Ovechkin, and frankly, it's going to take a long time. It's going to take an 18-year-old to walk in basically and consistently play 15, 20 years with an average around 30 goals a year. Yeah. Think about that. 18-year-old walking in, that is unheard of these days.
It's never going to happen.
It's consistently. It's very, very rough. And obviously, we don't know the age of Ovechkin. He could be 50 for all we know. But like he has been around for 20 years. Okay, this longevity and this goal scoring productivity is something that's may never get touched again.
Maybe everybody has to start drinking Coke in their water bottles. He's done all of this for the last 20 years.
And singing bands that make her dance constantly in between each. For those
brother, bands make her dance. Brother.
It's very, very funny.
Bands will make her dance. You want your son go high-level hockey, send him 2-3 years Russia, and forget. We talked all about the sports that are going on. I think it's time to get into the thumbnail for this week's episode. I know you were watching. We finally got the face-to-face promo. They've gone back and forth without each other there. Cody Rhodes, John Cena, the WWE Universal Title World Championship match taking place at WrestleMania. We finally got the promo that we were all waiting for. Cody trying to 8 Mile himself. John, both guys brought their A games. I don't think you can say either one really put themselves that much over, because the other one did a good job of tearing down everything that they said. And I think that there's truth in pretty much everything that was being stated. I just know who I side with and who I'm listening to and who I think is blowing shit out of their ass. And I'm saying that particularly because that's going to be the biggest critique and the biggest thing that I'm going to point to in this feud. John is in Cody's head because Cody has to resort to the shock factor of swearing. The shits. You're a piece of shit, John. You're just a punk bitch.
Look, there was a lot of great jabs. Obviously, the calling him not the people's superstar and instead the guy who shall not be named superstar, I thought was probably the best jab of the night. I think that hit home more than anything else.
But he flipped it too. I made empires for billionaires.
It was, and frankly, that's John playing off of what he said. Then it's not necessarily it's Cody playing off of what he said. So you can go back and forth. This guy won that. This guy won this. Look, for those that lived under a rock and did not, or not live under a rock, but didn't watch wrestling in the early 2010s, the "You Can't Wrestle" was a chant that consistently was said throughout every single John Cena match in the early 2010s. Every single one. And frankly, you could tell that got on his nerves earlier on. It absolutely got on his nerves. And frankly, that's something that has not been chanted out in a while because of how good the wrestling
He's
has
had like
been
3 or 4 5-star matches since this "You Can't Wrestle" chant.
Exactly. So it's been a very, very long time since and obviously it's changed his wrestling skills and everything.